Let me introduce Kim Sweet and Rick Keppler, and they're part of the reason that Channel 6 is on the right track. And good morning, and thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Gloria.
So we're glad to have you. So Kim, as you know, is doing the history show, and she has she's going to talk about a little bit of her personal life. Which would you like to start with?
Well, let's talk about the history show first.
All right.
The history show, I do believe, I hadn't checked with Rick on this fact, but I do believe that the history show, I think, is the longest running scripted show that TV6 has had with a script.
You know, I hadn't thought about that.
We've been running over 7 years.
Yeah, we started
Wow, you've got a lot of history.
We have a lot of history, and of course the earliest history show had my late husband, Tim, who is now part of the history of Big Bear. And, you know, I've taken 1.5 years off, and Rick and I and Channel 6 decided that it was time to maybe revamp some of our original shows, work on some of the audio and some of the issues. We were a little green behind the ears when we started, but we have 24 shows in the can.
Oh, do you?
And
wow.
We do.
2003.
2003,
okay.
We've been doing it, and we think that it's time to pick off where we left off.
Yeah, and you know, we over the years we have had so much new information, photographs, material, even videos and movies that we want to share with everybody. Big Bear's had a fascinating history, and there is no shortage of things to talk about. It's Tom with a studio and his new high-tech equipment. We're really going to change the whole look of the history show, and we're really excited about what we're going to bring in.
So I'm just curious, where do you get all this information?
Well, I've lived here over 40 years, and Rick is right behind me. I went through school up here,
Okay.
most of my schooling. And I've been an antique historian freak since I was born. And I think Rick was too, back in 1880. Just kidding.
Back, yeah, before 1880. You know, actually,
Yes.
well, you know, you're right. And Tim and Kim, they were curators at the museum out here for many, many, many years. And I got involved in publishing the, working with Tom Core back in the early 1990s, helping him publish his books. I went on to publish my own history books. I've helped other authors up here in the San Bernardino Mountains publish history books. With our BigBearHistory.com website, the amount of material that people have come forward, even vacation homeowners will purchase a home up here, and I'll get a phone call and say, hey, we found an album up here in the attic. Come take a look
how
at
interesting.
it.
Yeah.
And it's the information and stuff that just comes out of the woodwork is just fantastic. We can't we can't keep it up. We can't keep it all in front of the public. We hundreds of photographs over the years of Big Bear in the San Bernardino Mountains, and the stories that have come out have been a whole lot of fun. We've had some very interesting history up here, and a lot of the early history that had been published back in the 40s and 50s, and including some of my earlier books published back in the 1990s. We have misinformation. It's always been corrected. Things have come up, and I'm talking basic stuff. You know, we credit this Big Bear Lake being a man-made lake. Well, we found out just a few years ago that it's not a man-made lake.
Oh, it's not?
No, Big Bear, the government did a survey back in the 1850s, and there was actually a 1,000-acre lake here.
Oh.
And so when Big Bear Lake was named, when was that?
1845. Ben Wilson came over the Santa Ana River area and over back off of the back grade and came into the valley and saw the valley, and they were hunting bear. They came in hunting.
Actually, they were hunting Indians.
Hunting it, well,
believe it or not, they were chasing Indians into the mountains up here.
And they wiped out 22 bear.
Yeah, they took.
They wiped out 22 bear. Of course, back then it was appropriate to kill animals.
Right,
you know, today
right.
we don't like killing our critters.
Right.
But the Big Bear history dates back to the Serrano Indians. So we have, you know, over 200 years of history that it is someone's responsibility to preserve the history.
Well,
and
to
so
pass that information on to future generations.
So, and we have taken that on, and it's been a huge task. It's been a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Blood, sweat, and tears, literally.
No, it is. I remember I saw one of your shows where you were doing a whole piece on Fox Farm.
Oh, yeah.
Duh. Why is it called Fox Farm? I don't know. And it was all about raising the foxes for
Exactly.
the pelts. So I learned quite a bit watching those shows.
Well, that's what, we have the whole area up there in the Fox Farm area named after that. And fox farming was for a period of time, was one of the biggest businesses up here. Bigger than tourism, bigger than ranching, bigger than the gold rush. It came and blew into the valley. This country was based on trapping. Back in the 1700s, this whole country was, trapping was one of the biggest industries up here. Then they figured out a way to raise foxes in captivity, and which basically turned the fur business from a gold mine to nothing. It's almost as if you found a way to produce gold. But for a short period of time, from the early 1900s up to the 1940s, everybody was into fox farming, and it was all over Big Bear.
Yeah.
It was a huge business up here.
I was shocked to hear that. I had no clue.
Well, in the fox farming, what's interesting is, you hear about stages of Big Bear and the development of Big Bear from the Serranos, Ben Wilson and on. And then after the cattle ranching pretty much wrapped up, that's when the fox farming, so many of the cattle ranchers, the famous cattle ranchers up here, the Metcalfs, different folks, they went into fox farming. So that was the transition post cattle ranching time.
That's right.
So it was as we watched Big Bear develop into a busier, bigger town and actually a community, fox farming really helped that along.
So when did the gold mining part come in?
Well, the gold mining
Was it
part,
always
well,
here?
Holcomb Valley was the
Big-
gold.
Yeah, there was
Gold rush.
there was always people up here looking for gold. Well, we have Starvation Flats over here by Stanfield Cutoff.
Right.
And the reason it's called Starvation Flats, there really wasn't that much gold in this mountain. And then I guess our local legend Bill Holcomb rode into this valley and was looking for food and wandered up into Holcomb Valley and discovered gold up there and sparked a gold rush. This valley, there was nobody in it. There's maybe a handful of people, 50 people, but once gold was discovered, the towns of Belleville, Clapboard Town, and Uniontown sprang up in Holcomb Valley. And when San Bernardino County held an election to decide where the county seat was going to be, the town of Belleville and Holcomb Valley basically lost to the city of San Bernardino by just 2 or 3 votes.
Oh.
There was that many people up here in this valley. So had it won, well, who knows? We could have had high-rise buildings and jack-in-the-boxes all over Holcomb Valley right now, but
Thank
San Bernardino
goodness
ended
for
up
small
the
papers.
county seat. Yeah.
And since I have so much history here, I want to ask a question. So, and maybe I'm the only one that doesn't know this place, but let me ask you anyway. So when you go up towards the dump and you walk off a little bit, you have that cemetery. That is the eeriest, spookiest thing. What is that exactly?
That is actually Big Bear's first, Big Bear's first documented cemetery. And that's at Dobell. And of course, the town of Dobell is catty corner in that little area where the shoe tree was and where
I missed the shoe tree. My shoes were up there.
Were they up there?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
yeah.
felt real bad about it just for like 10 minutes, and then I just...
Did you? Oh, I still miss it. Yeah.
Well, there's a small building there that's, I believe, now a preserve of some kind on your way to the dump that's off to the left. And that whole town was Dobell. And that was
okay.
where folks went after the Holcomb Valley boom. The town of Dobell sprang up, I think around, I don't know, 1900.
18, no, actually, it was the...
I don't have
It
any
was,
dates
it was,
in
yeah,
front
it
of
was a
me.
late, it was a late 18, it was a second gold rush. The original gold rush started about the 1950s, and I think,
18.
yeah, and then when Elias J. Baldwin, Lucky Baldwin of Santa Anita Racetrack and that area down there came up here and started the stamp mill, this sparked a second gold rush. And the town that sprang up there, that was a community center in Big Bear. Big Bear Village was nothing. It was, everything was going on over there in the Baldwin Lake area. And that nature preserve that they preserved to protect from humans so they can't contaminate it was actually a huge town with many people.
And no law.
That was the
There's
center of
nobody
Big Bear.
there now.
Yeah, and there's nobody there now. And, it's like it's too late, really. We've been there. The whole place is just full of artifacts and nails and lumber and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting.
When I first moved here, there were still buildings there.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, and there were squatters that were out there, so they had to demolish everything.
Oh.
But I think that the whole town was pretty much wrapped up and gone by the 1920s because
Yeah.
the road was built across the dam to the South Shore, and that's when the village, you know, in the early days, you couldn't get to the village unless you went all the way around Fawnskin.
Oh.
You actually, the rim of the world came in at the Fawnskin area, so Fawnskin was a booming town.
What a drive that must have been. So your shows, like you said, you're going to be revamping them and putting them back on the air?
We
A
are.
lot more new information. It's going to be fascinating.
Good. That's good. And you know, to our audience, you really, really should look in on these shows. They're so interesting, and sometimes maybe you're too busy, you don't have time to read a book. No offense, but read Rick's books.
Yep. I got a lot of pictures.
Yeah, you can tune in and learn so much from the History Channel. So I'm anxious and excited to have
Thank
your
you.
shows back on the air. And we'd like to thank you very much, Kim Sweet, for coming on this morning, and
Thank
for
you
you
for
too,
having
Rick.
us.
Thanks, Gloria.
And we're going to go to our commercials and hear from our sponsors.